morning, fourth grade. We are going to do a reading lesson today. This lesson is about being a word detective. So that means we're searching things out, we're figuring them out, we're solving problems with clues. So today our focus is readers monitor their reading. Students will use strategies when their reading does not make sense. So monitoring your reading is you're thinking, did that make sense? Did I understand it? You're just not reading to read, you're reading to understand. So nonfiction writers, which is the unit we're in, we're talking about nonfiction writing. Nonfiction writers use a lot of very specific words in their text to help readers understand that specific topic. Readers come across new words that are not familiar to them, unfamiliar, and we become detectives to find the meaning. We have to search and find. So when we're reading nonfiction, there are several different strategies we can use to figure out the meaning of an unknown word. Let's look at some of the strategies we can use to help us solve a word mystery. That's what's on the chart behind us. One strategy we can use is looking at context clues. So here we're talking about what are the words in front of the unknown word or unfamiliar word. What are the words behind the word? Look at what's in the sentence. Do I know any of those words? Can I figure it out on my own? What do you know around the word? What do those words mean? The next one is using your background knowledge. We all have background knowledge or something we already know about the topic or about some of the words in the topic. So think about what you already know. What have you read or seen about this topic? So if we're talking about turtles, what do you already know? What is that knowledge that's already stored in your head that you can use to move forward? Have you had any personal experiences about this topic? So if we're talking turtles, have you ever seen a turtle release? Have you gone to the turtle hospital? Have you gone to an aquarium? What do you already know that you can connect to what you're learning now? Third, knowledge of common word parts. So you look at the parts of a word. Maybe I don't recognize this word, but I maybe know a little part of it. Oh, I've seen this part of the word in another word. Oh, well, maybe it has a similar meaning. So you're looking at the parts of the words, seeing if you recognize anything about it. Do you know what the meaning of that part is or how it's used in another word? See if you can connect it that way. Bottom one is a little low. Glossary. So is there a glossary in the back of your book? If the text has a glossary, use it. Look the word up. A lot of nonfiction books have that as a reference, so make sure you take advantage of it. Is the word in the back of the book? Is the word in bold or highlighted? Is the word a different color? These all give you hints about what's important in the text. So we have those three strategies we can use whenever we come across that unfamiliar or unknown word. I'm going to read to you. Oh, actually, we're going to look at another one. We're going to look a little closer at this knowledge of word parts. And here's a word part, sub, which means under. So sometimes you see this word used in things like submarine or sub-level. If a submarine is using the word sub or the chunk, sub, you know it is under something, so it's underwater. Sub-level would be like a level of a parking garage that's under the ground. Sub meaning under. Another one is photo, and photo means light. So if you take a photograph, you have to have light for that. If you don't have light, you have a flash, which creates the light. So any photo needs to have some sort of light in it. Photosynthesis, that's that process of the sunlight helping things grow. So photosynthesis, we have photo. The light comes from the sun. We're still talking light. So we can use these word chunks to help us figure out words we don't already know. Bio. Bio means life. Bio is used in words like biography. We've been reading about biographies. We've been looking at a lot of them. We've been using them for our African American Visionaries posters. Biography is about someone's life, a story written about their life. Biology is a study of science, which is about life also. So bio, it's going to usually mean life when we see it in a word. Fourth one we're going to look at, and last one, micro. Micro means small. If something's microscopic, it's itty bitty, itty bitty. Micro. We also have a microorganism. A microorganism is an organism that's so tiny you have to use a microscope to see it. So it's super, super, super tiny. We also have microscope, and if you've ever used a microscope or seen one on some sort of science channel, they're looking through something and it is showing something that's super tiny and making it larger. But micro meaning small. So as you read your nonfiction book today, make sure that you're looking for these word chunks that you might know that can help you be successful with what you're reading and coming across unknown words. We are going to read from Oceanography today. We are going to read just one chapter. It's the study of oceans. I'm going to scoot a little closer so hopefully you can see it better. So we started this book in class. Obviously, we did not finish it. Oceanography, the study of oceans. We're starting in chapter 3. So it says the 5 oceans. 5 oceans make up the Earth's largest bodies of water. These include the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic, and Southern Oceans. The Pacific and Atlantic are divided into northern and southern regions. The Southern Ocean is the most recently named ocean. It was named in 2000 and includes the water surrounding Antarctica. So it was only named 20 years ago is what they're saying. None of these 5 oceans is completely surrounded by land. They flow into one another, forming one enormous body of water. And down here, it's got some of our nonfiction features we're looking at. It gives us a blurb and a caption about this. It says oceans cover about 71% of the Earth's surface. So if you think about that, 71 is bigger than 50. So we're talking about a large chunk of the Earth's surface, way more than half of it. Here we have another picture and a caption underneath. The satellite image shows all 5 of the Earth's oceans. Salt everywhere. So here's our subtitle. Oceans contain salt water. Much of the salt comes from the land. Rainwater runs down mountainsides. It washes across plains and into rivers. The water picks up the salt from the ground along the way. Eventually, rivers carry the salt into the ocean. Meanwhile, the sun heats the ocean surface. This causes the water to evaporate into gas and rise to form clouds. Most of the salt is left behind. Over here, look, if there's a highlighted word, and it is in bold. That gives us a big hint. This is important. Saltiness, or salinity, is measured in parts per 1,000, or ppt. Ocean water salinity is about 35 ppt. This means that every 1,000 pounds of seawater contains 35 pounds of salt. If we simplify that, that means for every 100 pounds of water, we get about 3.5 pounds of salt. So that salinity, we know, is that saltiness in the water. Sometimes you go to the ocean, it splashes in your mouth. You're like, ooh, salt. That's salinity, friends. But it doesn't bother the ocean animals. That salt that's way too much in the water for us, animals love it in the ocean. Their bodies filter out excess salt from the water as it enters into their system. Here's another picture. Super cute fish. I like the red tail. Oh, it looks red on camera, but it's orange in the book. Ocean animals such as fish are equipped to live in salty water. They look very happy here. Temperature and pressure. Ocean temperatures cover a wide range. Surface waters in the Arctic and Southern Oceans are icy cold. Surface waters in the Southern Pacific and Indian Oceans are quite warm. Rain, wind, and the sun's heat affect the water temperature at the surface, but deeper down, the sun's warmth fades away. Wind and rain have little effect on the ocean way down there. The water gradually gets colder, and the deep ocean floor... The water is just above freezing at the deep ocean floor. So when you go all the way to the bottom of the ocean, way, way, way down, it's barely above freezing. Super, super cold. Here we have sunlight keeps surface waters warm in many parts of the world. You see this gorgeous water. It's probably nice and warm because of the sun. Here's our caption here. Divers at certain depths use tanks that provide a special mix of gases for them to breathe. Hopefully we know that one of those gases we're talking about is oxygen. And here's the caption, another caption for this picture. Divers can damage their bodies by remaining in deep water for too long. So we are not meant to be way down there. That's not how our bodies were equipped. Pressure also increases as you move deeper into the ocean. On land, we don't notice, but the weight of the atmosphere presses down on our bodies. In the ocean, water also presses down. As a diver descends or goes down, this is one of our vocabulary words last week, descending is going down. The amount of water above the diver increases. Therefore, the pressure on his or her body increases. Divers working at extreme depths wear special suits. These are built to protect their bodies. Our subtitle here is sunlight. Our caption with our picture says, most ocean plants grow near the surface where sunlight is more plentiful. Plentiful meaning there's a lot more of it. Sunlight. On land, sunlight falls on mosses, ferns, and trees. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Ferns and trees. Their cells use the sun's energy to change different chemicals into food. This process is called photosynthesis. Remember, we saw that word photo. Photo meaning light. So that's super important. So even if we don't know what photosynthesis is, we see the word photo, we know it has something to do with light. So the process is called photosynthesis. Ocean plants do the same. Sunlight filters through the water, reaching tiny floating plants. Sunlight also shines on strands of seaweed. These plants carry on photosynthesis to live and grow. And so that's why it's showing you the seaweed up here. And kind of the light shining through the water. So photosynthesis is happening there. Just beneath the ocean's surface, the sunlight is quite bright. In fact, in the upper 330 feet of the water, there is enough light for plants to survive. But as you go deeper, the sunlight dims. It becomes too faint for plants to photosynthesize. The only plants here are dead ones that are sinking down from above. Below about 3,000 feet, the sea becomes completely dark. So they're saying this is at the top of our ocean, about 300 feet down. All that light from the sun still can filter through. Now when we're looking over here, this is the deepest part of our ocean. No light is filtering through. It is completely pitch black on the bottom after about 3,000 feet, which is pretty deep. Here is a picture of one of those funky little animals that are found way, way deep. It says the fangtooth lives in complete darkness 3 miles below the ocean's surface. That kind of tells you how deep some of our oceans are. I would definitely not call him pretty any day, but I don't think it matters because he lives in complete darkness in the bottom of the ocean, so no one really has to see him, which is probably beneficial to him. Where land and sea meet. At the edges of the continents, the land gently slopes into the sea. This shallow, sloping region is called the continental shelf. Next, the land drops off and becomes much steeper. This region is called the continental slope. Then the slope levels off a bit into a zone called the continental rise. The rise leads to the deep ocean floor. Here's our caption above our diagram. On average, the continental shelf extends about 40 miles into the ocean. So this part that's not as flat goes out 40 miles. So if you go to the beach, you're never going to be swimming in this really deep part. You're always going to be, probably even if you take out a boat, you're still always in this. It goes 40 miles out, which is very, very far. And then we get to this all the way down here. The continental slope, it goes down, and then that's the floor of the ocean. Super, super deep. Surprises on the ocean floor. Part of the ocean floor is completely flat. This is called the abyssal plain. A chain of volcanic mountains rises from the plain. Some are active with hot rocks and ash flowing from them. Others have been quiet for centuries. Many of these mountains are among the tallest on Earth. Some reach well above water, creating islands. And we've kind of talked about that, how those Hawaiian islands, they came from those volcanoes, underwater volcanoes. Here, this is labeled The Big Truth. And it says the deep, deep sea. Many oceanographers are fascinated by deep sea trenches. So oceanographers, people who study the ocean, people who take pictures of the ocean, they're the ones who teach us about the ocean. So they're fascinated by trenches. These are huge cracks in the ocean floor. The Java Trench, Java Trench lies in the Indian Ocean. Its lowest spot is more than 4 miles down. That means from the top of the ocean, 4 miles before you reach the bottom of it. The Puerto Rico Trench in the Atlantic is even deeper, but the Mariana Trench has the deepest spot known. So the Mariana Trench is the deepest trench that oceanographers have ever found. And that extends 7 miles into the earth. So that means top of the ocean is here. We go down 7 miles into the ocean, pitch black. That is where we can find that Mariana Trench, which is the deepest we've ever found, or scientists have ever found. I personally have not found it. In the 1960s, the U.S. Navy sent a manned vehicle to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The Navy was testing a special deep water vessel named Triste. The sphere at the bottom of the vessel, I don't know how well you guys can see it, but there's a little sphere at the bottom of this vessel. That's where the scientists were hanging out. It housed 2 men. It had fixed steel walls and a single round window so they could see where they were going. Here's this next part. These are the 2 guys who actually went in it. The 2 divers inside were Don Walsh and Jacques Picard. They shared a small, cramped space inside of the cabin. As the Triste descended, the cabin grew cold. The men had to put on warmer clothing. They ate candy bars during their trip to hold up their energy. So remember, we're talking about they're going way down. There's no sunlight. And we also learned that right next to the floor of the ocean, the very bottom, it's nearly freezing. Last one on the bottom, it says, it took almost 5 hours to reach the bottom of the trench. Walsh and Picard switched on some high-powered lights and looked outside. They were surprised to see shrimp and fish. The men spent about 20 minutes at the bottom before returning up to the surface. So I would imagine when they got down there, they said fish and shrimp, but they didn't really give us a lot of details. So this is probably the kind of fish they were seeing all the way down at the bottom of the ocean where there's no light. That'd be kind of creepy swimming past my bubble. All right, on the go. The ocean is never still. At the surface, waves are whipped along by the wind. On quieter, breezy days, the waves are low and calm. But during storms, the winds stir up huge, violent waves. Some of the most powerful waves occur right after underwater earthquakes. These deep sea jolts are such a shock that they can produce waves hundreds of feet tall. These waves are called tsunamis, and we've talked about tsunamis quite a bit and how those waves just literally wipe everything out. Here's the caption. You see the picture. Here's the water. That's the roof of the house. This is the whole house. You can tell these guys are actually flattened. This one's toppled a little bit on its side. Not so pleasant. People in those were probably not surviving. Tsunamis can cause serious damage to towns along coasts. Here's our caption over here. Tides are caused by the gravity of the sun and the moon pulling on the water. You can see those waves coming in. That looks super pretty. Tides are slow movements of the entire ocean. They are seen along any shoreline. The water takes hours to creep up the shore. Then it takes hours for the water level to fall again. Currents are rivers in the ocean. There are areas where the water flows in a specific direction. The wind and the earth's spin are 2 things that can produce currents. Oh, that was the last of chapter 2. So if you've been in the ocean and you feel the water pulling a certain way, those are those currents, and they call them the rivers in the ocean, which is kind of a cute little name for it. So now, your job as a reader of nonfiction, which is what you are going to read lots of different things that are nonfiction throughout the course of your life. As you discover new information, you come across those unfamiliar words, which is what we've been talking about today, strategies to figure those out. As you do that, you're going to have to use those strategies and become increasingly more successful using those strategies by practicing them. Your job now is to spend at least 20 minutes. That's your absolute minimum, 20 minutes, reading a nonfiction book. If you don't have a nonfiction book at home, which could definitely be a possibility, then you have resources. Go to Epic. Epic has lots of nonfiction books that you can look through. I know every fourth grade classroom has used Epic. The other place is ReadWorks. We've all used ReadWorks also. ReadWorks, there are nonfiction articles of the day. I know my class is set up with articles that are about animals. They are all nonfiction. All the articles of the day are nonfiction. So choose a ReadWorks article of the day. Practice those strategies. Practice those strategies as you read. Make sure that you're thinking about your context clues, your background knowledge, thinking about what you already know, thinking about the parts of the words, using that glossary if you have that in the back. But apply these strategies to your reading, because that is the only way that these strategies will actually be remembered. And have a great day, and thank you for listening.